Broadcasting from East Tennessee and Northern Alabama, you're listening to Justified Radio, where each week we look at today's issues through the lens of God's Word. Justified Radio. Justified Radio. It's where life meets the Bible.
And this is Justified Radio from the East Tennessee end. That's me, Phil Whittemore.
And from the Alabama, North Alabama to be precise, Huntsville to be even more precise, is me, David Sally.
And it is good to be back together, David.
Yeah, it's good to see you, buddy. I'm glad we can. This is one of the things that I'm not a big technological freak or anything, but this is one of the things I'm very thankful that we have, the technology we have to be able to do, to be able to see you and to be able to talk about God's Word.
Yeah, and it works relatively well.
I think it works great.
The timing sometimes, I looked at the tape from last time, the video, because I always look to see what we talked about, because sometimes we don't stay on script.
Sometimes?
A lot of times we don't. And so before we record, say, tonight, I go back and I listen to the previous episode just to see what we did talk about.
Yeah.
And
I think I don't even want to apologize for that anymore, because one thing I think people need to start doing is having biblical conversations, to be talking about things, just like we do get off track, but we're talking about God's things and the things God's doing and how they, how they impact us, how we impact the culture we're in. It's just really fun to be able to talk about how life intersects with the Bible. Well, it makes sense if God's the creator. On our little 10-minute episodes, I'm talking a lot about creation, because I think it's really the foundation of getting a proper biblical worldview. Knowing God's the creator, knowing God made everything, knowing God's in control. Even if you feel like he's not in control, he still is. And that biblical worldview will come from that peace that you have that passes all understanding when you read the Bible and you know God who wrote the Bible.
Right, and we do want to push that, because the way that is distributed is a little different. Yeah. When we do the podcast, Justified Radio, the podcast, it goes out generally Fridays, sometimes Saturdays, but it goes out on podcast. You can hear it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Podcast, Amazon Podcast, but the podcast goes out, and at the same time there is a video that goes out on YouTube. And we'll also share those on the Facebook page. See, we're big time. People don't understand.
Oh, yeah. People don't understand. We've got still the 3 studios.
Oh, yes. It's, YouTube and Facebook, the podcast, all these different platforms. And so we go to Facebook, which is where most people listen. Most people of our generation, people we know who listen, Facebook is where they're getting things. And so we link to the podcast on Facebook. We link to the video on Facebook. Now, when you do the worldview, which you've done, and you're doing with increasing frequency, you're down to just about every single day, which was the target.
Yeah.
Well, but that's true.
Yeah.
But when you record it and you post it to Facebook only. So, and that's on purpose. It's not going up on YouTube. It's not going out on the podcast. It is a video only, and it goes to Facebook, where, again, everybody's picking things up, so we're not missing anyone. But it's very easy for David to record that, and as soon as he has his video done, to shoot it out to Facebook, as long as he keeps his account.
Yeah. And don't panic. Yeah, I got Phil's kind of alluding to a couple of weeks ago. I had an account and it got hacked, and I panicked and I got rid of my account. Well, it didn't dawn on me, if I got rid of my account, I couldn't do the things we're doing on this, our little 10-minute devotional type worldview thing. So Phil had to help me set up a new account. But anyway, it worked. I was able to set up a new account, and now we're back on, so everything's good.
Yeah. The conversation went kind of like, well, David, you're going to have to sign into Facebook before you can post. Well, I can't. Well, why not? I deleted my account.
Well, I didn't, but Rhonda did because I asked her to because I didn't know how. So,
well, we're going to have to set another one up.
Yeah, but we did.
But
you did. And
it's set up and it's doing very well. 10 or 11 minutes, changing hearts to share his worldview. You're talking a lot about the fundamentals. You're talking a lot about creation and what that entails and the importance that, we have a biblically founded understanding of creation. There would be things, and I'm excited and I like listening to it. There may be things that David and I wouldn't see eye to eye, or that David may be a little dogmatic about that. I'm like, I don't know. I'm really not as confident, David, as you are, and I'm not bothered by it. Yeah. And David's more, listen, you've got to think this way or something's wrong with you.
But that's one of the neat things about mine and Phil's relationship, that I think if we have anything that could be modeled and should be modeled, it is that. We love to talk about things, and we love to even talk about the things that we don't agree on.
Yes.
And we come away, and I think many times we both give pretty valid reasons why we believe a certain way, and we don't convince the other, and we're still good friends, still look forward to seeing each other. And so far, Phil hasn't called me a name.
On there.
So far, right, that I've heard.
No, so, but it is, we agree on much, David, what Christians do now is they may have, I heard someone use this example, I've picked it up somewhere, but we take the 5% we disagree on and we argue 100% on that.
Right.
And just ruin relationships.
Yep.
And if you're not talking, if you're listening to us and you want to have these conversations, or you're having conversations with people, and the person or persons that you're talking to, that you all share the exact same opinion, the same interpretation, the same, application of what it means, of everything that you study and read in the Bible, you're lockstep together. You never disagree. You need to find somebody else to talk to.
Need to get a new friend, yeah, or another friend at least.
Well, there's a danger. I mean, we all want to be agreed with. This is, the echo chamber effect. We all want to be agreed with, but it is a dangerous thing not to hear anything that isn't contradictory. We get into trouble that way. We need to be challenged to make sure that our views that they hold water and that we can defend them.
Yeah, that's why I read. I mean, and you know this, and I don't try to hide it from anybody, but I read some of the atheists. I read Mr. Nagel, who's a philosophy professor at New York University. He even said that it's not that he doesn't believe, he doesn't want to believe. This is what he said. He said, now I'm paraphrasing a bit, but not much. He said he didn't want to believe in a God because he didn't want to live in a universe that was governed by a God who was in control of everything. And I thought that was really strange, but it's really open and honest. But, I still read his stuff. I don't agree with much of what he says.
Right.
But he's a thinker, and he's not afraid to say what he thinks. Even with that thought process, he says that to him, the more he looks at it, it's untenable to believe in evolution, biological evolution. He said it couldn't happen. But he's an atheist. He says, he'll even go as far as say, I don't know how it happened, but the way Darwinian belief system goes, it couldn't have happened that way.
Well, see, and I think we both appreciate reading some of the science writers. Mm-hmm. Scientists who are Christians, but certainly some of their views when it comes to creation, when it comes to evolution, when it comes to the age of creation, are not the same as what we may subscribe to, or what we may, or maybe it is but it's good to get all these views, and you started reading it first, and then pointed it out to me, and we've both been reading. I guess you're finished. I read slower or less often. This book on the quantum enigma.
Yeah, that's a headache book.
Well, it is,
but it's fun. It's fun to read.
I would tell anybody who was capable of reading something like that. I've got a Sunday school class, young marrieds, that David, I've got, oh my goodness, there's 5 school teachers in there. There's 3 homeschool teachers are in there. The vast majority of them, except for maybe a couple of people, they all have degrees. Most of them, since they're in education, have graduate degrees. It wouldn't bother me to hand them that book and say, "Here, read this."
Yeah.
And it doesn't come at it from a Christian point of view, from a theological point of view. But when you start reading about the universe and quantum physics or quantum mechanics and how everything is tied in with one another, I cannot, as a Christian, I can't help but see God's handiwork in all of it.
Yeah, me either. Especially, you start talking about the Schrodinger's cat and all that stuff, and the double box, double slit experiments, and they say, nothing. They've even proven down on that level that things don't really exist until you see them, until you make an observation of them. Well, the greatest observer that we know of is God. None of this would exist had God not observed it. Of course, he brought it into existence, so he would observe it, but I don't know. You're right. You start reading that book, Quantum Enigma, and you just keep seeing God showing up in it, whether they meant to or not. You keep seeing the thought of a mind, at least, like we were talking earlier, a mind that's over all this, put all these things into existence and made them work together so wonderfully and beautifully. Einstein, I love this quote, but Einstein said the greatest, let's see, how did he say it? Well, now my mind went blank. But anyway, he was talking about the universe. One of the greatest things about the universe is that we can even think about it and be able to examine it. He said it was, I wish I could remember exactly how he said it. It's a great quote. Anyway, we get in a venue like this, and my mind goes blank from time to time. But anyway. Well,
it does. It says that you think something, and you can think something, and it exists, mm-hmm. and you can bring it into existence, and once it's in existence, then it starts writing its past history, and it starts writing, and like I said, it's all kind of it's just far fetched, but it's strange, but that's what quantum mechanics is. But again, I just read that and think, well, maybe this is the mechanism, the miracles that God does. Maybe, he uses the creation that he created, the laws of creation, and maybe these are the mechanisms that he's using to manipulate the universe.
Yeah, or just set them out there to where they would work together.
Right.
I thought of it. Okay, Einstein said, the most incomprehensible thing about our universe is the fact that it is comprehensible. I love that. What he was saying was the most amazing thing about all this is that we can analyze it and come down to mathematical formula that describe how the planets move and how the universes hold together. And that was what amazed Einstein more than anything about the creation.
Yeah. Well, there have been many. They may not be Christians, but there are a lot of scientists, David. What we find, we always talk about atheists, and we always talk about the agnostics. There are a lot of intelligent, learned men and women that are scientists, and they're not Christians. They're not people of faith, and yet they can view God's creation, and they can see that there is intelligence behind it.
Yeah, I mean,
it may not be full-on fledged what we would call saving faith, but there is the knowledge there that they know what they're looking at and the sophistication of what they're looking at, and they know that it's just not random.
Right. Couldn't have been random. Couldn't have just happened. Had to be designed. Had to be planned. Has to be controlled.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which is another aspect of the God's work in creation that we hold dear, but that even some who believe in God, a deist, yeah, I believe there's a God, but I don't believe he's in control of every situation. I believe he started everything. They even use the analogy, wound it up like a clock, set it free, and then left. But we believe that God's in control of every movement of every atom.
Right. No, that's,
Not Adam the man, Adam,
the
Atom. Adam Ant.
That's,
I remember him. Adam Ant, Pink Panther, Blue Aardvark, all those great ones.
So, well, on our study, where are we?
Oh,
Daniel.
yeah, in the Bible, yeah.
In the Bible. On our study, we're in chapter 11, and we're working our way through there, and we're down to around verse 20. We talked without rehashing it, but David, we're talking about the two primary kingdoms that came out of the four generals when Alexander died and the Grecian Empire was split into four.
Yeah.
And so we did talk about, the ones we're concerned with, the ones that affect Israel, the Middle East, are the Ptolemies in the south and the Seleucids in the north.
Right. And that's the two the Bible focuses on. And we talked about this a couple of times ago, but the Bible is primarily concerned with Israel. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it touches on some things, Macedonia, where Philip of Macedon came, where Alexander the Great came from, yeah, Rome, but primarily the Bible's talking about the Promised Land, what we would call Israel today. And that's why from those four generals that split up the whole known earth, basically, you come down to just the two, and that's the one, the Seleucids up to the north, the Ptolemies down in south in Egypt. And that's why these two are the two that get the focus after this, or during this time frame, and up until the Roman time frame.
Right. And so we see starting with verse 20 down here, and it's talking about these successors, and you can go back and you can read the history, and we have said this more than one time. Read the Bible, but read the history outside of the Bible, and you will see what's being described here is what happened as according to historians, and it is uncanny. I mean, just how accurate that what God revealed to Daniel, how it was revealed, how it unfolded.
It dovetails together. I mean, you go to Encyclopedia Britannica, look up the Ptolemies. If you want to look that up, it's spelled Ptol. That's how you start it. You start that. Britannica's going caught up. Go to Google. Or you can go to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend that. Wikipedia is not always your most reliable source, but generally, I would imagine 95% of the time it's pretty good.
I got no problem with Wikipedia, except maybe some more recent stuff. I mean, if it's history, it's okay. It's only when it's things going on right now, political things in the headlines that people keep going back there and changing things and trying to rewrite history.
Yeah.
But if you don't have anything better when you're talking about the history of the Grecian Empire, the history of the Medo-Persian Empire, this type that when Alexander died, you'll get a pretty good Wikipedia would be fine for that.
Oh yeah, well it can at least get you headed in the right direction anyway. It will bring up some names that you can cross-reference to different things and look up. It's good. I mean, it's I just I bought that Encyclopedia Britannica online. I love that. Oh, I love it.
And you'll always find some site that specializes in whether it be Greek history or Persian history or something. There's a lot to be had.
Oh yeah.
We live in an age that, listen, if you've got a computer and you've got internet, before you would buy a book, someone else has done the research that we can recreate the research of what previously we would just be taking a commentator's word for. Mm-hmm. That we can do the work ourselves and check their work.
Yeah, and it's fun. It
really
gives
fun.
You a sense of accomplishment when you do that. So, we'd recommend that to anybody.
So we get down here to verse 20, and it's talking about another king of the Seleucids. It says, his successor will send out a tax collector, and we don't want to go over each and every one of these, but to maintain the royal splendor, but after a very brief reign he will die, though not from anger in battle. Okay. Now, this is taking us, this very specific prophecy here says that there's going to be a king that's going to arise and who's going to raise taxes to maintain the splendor of the kingdom. After a brief reign, he's going to die, not in a fight or a battle. And this describes Seleucus IV Philopator. And he had a short reign after his father, Antiochus III. Now, just show the historical accuracy. Seleucus, he taxed his people to maintain standard of living. He was killed by his treasurer, Heliodorus, not in a fight or a battle, just like the prophecy said, but he was poisoned. And I just want to point that out because we're going to get into the next verse. That leads us to the next verse and the next leader. Because it says in verse 21, the next to come to power will be a despicable man who is not in line for royal succession. He will slip in when last expected and will take over the kingdom by flattery and intrigue. And we are very interested in this person.
Yeah. And we're sure of who it is. Because of historical accuracy, not only here, but of the things that have been recorded about this time frame and about the Middle East, and especially about Jerusalem. But we end up talking about an Antichrist, but not the Antichrist. But probably other than the Antichrist, the most despicable, hateful, mean person that ever dealt with Israel probably is this person, and we believe it's Antiochus Epiphanes.
Yeah. Now, and some depending on what their end time beliefs, because you've got those like David and I that listen. We believe in a pre-tribulation rapture of the church. We believe that the second coming of Christ is yet to come. It's going to occur at the end of the tribulation. And then he will rule and reign on earth for 1,000 years. But then we go back, David, and we've talked to him like a preterist who believes that, all this leads up to the time to 70 AD when the temple is destroyed by the Romans. That a lot of what we read concerning the end times to them is past history.
Yeah. And
many look and view Antiochus IV, Antiochus Epiphanes, as being the Antichrist.
Yeah.
But again, we don't. He's a type, but he is not the Antichrist of the tribulation of the end times, according to our understanding of the Bible. Right,
and some preterists who, like Phil said, believe everything in Revelation, especially the book of Revelation. It leads you up to 70 AD and nothing after that. They even believe that Nero was the Antichrist.
Right.
Some believe that, what was the other one that was so crazy? One of the Roman.
Dalmatian? I can't remember.
Yeah, Domitian. Yeah, he was just nuts. But anyway, that time frame saw a lot of nuts. Nero, Caligula, Domitian. They were out there.
Well, and that's what absolute power does to you also, with no checks and balances.
Yeah.
And so verse 21 says he's coming to power. He's despicable. He's not in line, but he's going to take over the kingdom by flattery and intrigue. And he is not the Antichrist of the end times, but we see some character similarities.
Yeah, you see some character similarities. You see some spiritual similarities between the two, and not only that, but between them and Satan, what would Satan want to do? Well, they do exactly what Satan would want to do or have done. Just a bad time. I mean, these things should be evident to people because God has a particular way, and Satan and his cohorts, the principalities and powers that he is in league with, I even hesitate to say in charge of it. I don't believe he's in charge of them anymore. I believe he's just one of them. But that's neither here nor there. But just, look at the way people deal with other people, and you'll see who's ruling their life. Is it God ruling their life, or is it Satan? And sometimes, sadly, you can see God's people let Satan creep in, and they start treating people like the world would treat people rather than like Christ would treat people.
Well, first of all, if you're not in the Bible, if you're not grounded, it's hard to pick out. It's hard to pick out the heretics. It's hard to pick out what's of God and what's of Satan.
Yeah.
Or what's of, our own sinful selves. One of the gifts of the Spirit is the gift of discernment. And we know that not everybody receives all the gifts. And so, there are those, and I think I possess the gift of discernment. The ability to see someone, to, a situation, and discern whether or not this is from God or not.
Right. And it's because you have the Holy Spirit. It's because you're in the Bible. It's because you think about things the way God would have you think about things. Not everything. I'm not saying that you always have the mind of Christ, but I know you. I know who you believe in. I know what you believe. And you do have the mind of Christ. We should be a more discerning people.
Well, and we should, but again, you have to be grounded in the Bible. You have to have that standard to where you have to have something to go to and look at and say, what's being said here, what's being done here, what's being claimed here. No, that's not what the Word says. That's not Christ-like, But so many people are they're not grounded in the Bible, and so all they're looking is someone just to do something and quote that, it's Jesus' name, or, it's the godly thing to do, and they're right there with them.
Well, it's all the stuff the Southern Baptist Convention's going through right now with all the alleged, things that people did and everything. Well, the biblical truth of it is the churches where these things happen failed. They don't need the Southern Baptist Convention sending a league of lawyers or consultants in to help them. No, they've got the Bible. They have the Holy Spirit. When somebody messes up, Phil and I have talked about this before, but there are sometimes you have to exercise judgment in the church, and you have to bring people to accountability in the church, and we've quit doing that as the church.
Well, we have. It's different. I noticed just this past Sunday, and we're going to get a lot of chasing rabbits done, and not a lot of Antiochus tonight. But just this Sunday, another SBC pastor, is stepping down from his pulpit for a period of time. High profile. It's Matt Chandler, the Village Church just outside of Dallas. You don't know all the details. What he told the church was he had an inappropriate texting relationship with a woman who was not his wife, that it wasn't sexual or anything like that, that his wife knew about it, the woman's husband knew about it, but somehow or the other, David, they had conversations going on that shouldn't have been going on. Jokes, conversations that just wasn't appropriate. And so their elder board, he's stepping away for a little while and will come under their supervision, and it's every week with something like this.
Yeah.
It's every week.
Yeah, it's every week, probably more than every week, because, for all those that come forward, there's 10 in the background that haven't.
Well, and normally what happens is you can go and you can listen to what they say, and they, they'll admit something went on. Generally, they'll never refer to it as sin or a need to repent. They try to pass themselves off in as best light as possible. And the plan is for them to return to the pulpit just as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And almost to the church, what happens is when a man stands up there and says, well, I've made some mistakes, I'm going to have to step away and everything like that, he presents it in such a way, or his church thinks of him in such a way that he got a standing ovation. Mm-hmm. Got a standing ovation for stepping up and being so honest.
Yeah, when people should have been heartbroken.
Well, that's there was a columnist, Dave Miller, and he writes. Well, he wrote an article, and it was in Christianity Today. Usually he writes something for SBC.net, SBC.net. But he wrote a column that says, listen, and said just like that. Said, have your heart broken, lament, cry about it. But said, let's quit applauding the men who have disqualified themselves or came close to disqualifying themselves from ministry through their failings. Yeah. Let's quit celebrating them.
Yep. Yep. It's time to quit the craziness, as we say. But that's why are we saying that? Well, because you better be careful who you're following. Antiochus Epiphanes had some people following him. And this guy is an antichrist. He had some people in Jerusalem that were following him. Sure, they had fallen away from the true faith, but they were listening to somebody, and their religion was embracing that. You got to be careful. You got to cultivate a worldview, like we're talking about on our broadcasts. You got to think biblically, like Phil and I try to get across here. We need to have the mind of Christ as we address the situations that we find ourselves in every day. This isn't something, well, I've got to be ready for that one big time. No, you got to be ready every day, because we'll be in confrontational situations, if you want to call it that, where we'll need the mind of Christ. We'll need to hand biblical help to somebody and to tell them the way to righteousness.
Right, because here's the thing, is the church, either the church will understand and identify heresy for what it is, to discern what's of God and what's not of God, or the church will be co-opted into taking part in what is going to be sinful or evil activities.
Yeah.
When Antiochus Epiphanes became king, one of the first things he did was he took over the Jewish religious order within Jerusalem. He replaced the high priest, was Annas, and he pulled him and replaced him with his brother Jason. Other positions we could go. I always say we need to be careful when we talk about Germany and Hitler and the Holocaust. No one should ever, very seldom should we ever say this is like the Holocaust. There's no good can come of that.
No.
But one of the things that Hitler did was Hitler, as he was coming to power, is he co-opted the church in his ascending to power. The church stood behind Hitler. Very, very few spoke out. And I think, and this sounds conspiracy-minded, but we've said this. When we get to the end times, when we get into the tribulation, we say, well, I believe the church is going to be raptured before the tribulation begins. And I believe that. When the tribulation begins, the church is going to be right there in the tribulation.
Right. Yep.
They're going to be worshiping on Sunday morning.
Yep.
They're going to be
up, still singing the same 3 songs and praying.
They're going to be walking lockstep with the Antichrist.
Yeah. And how will that be? The Bible tells us. He's going to come and tell a lie, and then in Thessalonians we find that they will believe the lie.
Yeah. Now they've not been raptured. Now what that means is that they're not true Christians.
Right.
But they identify as Christians. They think of themselves as Christians. They think of themselves as the church, and yet they're going to support and be in cohorts with the Antichrist.
This will be the people. It'll be the people that said, "Well, my grandmother, she took me to church every Sunday." Well, that's wonderful. Did you ever go because you wanted to? See,
Well,
if you've never been to church just because you want to go to church, you don't know the God who's the God of the church.
Well, the fastest growing, and I know we've really went off on but I like it when we do this. Now, if someone's listening, they may not, but I like it.
Well, come back. We don't do this all the time, but we do it a lot.
But one of the fastest growing religious sectors in the South are people who are no longer part of the church, but they still consider themselves to be Christians. But they've quit the church, consider themselves to be Christian. They're very conservative when it comes to things like pro-life. They're very conservative when it comes to things like Second Amendment rights and things like that. They tend to be very libertarian, though, when it comes to their own behavior. They tend to be okay with pot smoking. They tend to be okay with living together, out of wedlock. And that is the newest, largest, or fastest growing segment of Christians in the South are those who are culturally Christian, consider themselves to be Christian, hold on to many conservative Christian views, but they're not involved in the church at all, and they're okay with sin in their own lives.
Yeah, and those are two pretty clear markers that you better take inventory of whether or not you really know the Lord of the Bible.
Well, that's right. That's where the discernment comes in.
Yeah.
So we didn't get very far. We'll touch, and I guess the next time we'll go even further because we want to talk about Antiochus Epiphanes. We want to talk about his invasion of Egypt. He invaded Egypt twice. We want to talk about the first time. We want to talk about the second time. Specifically, what happened when he invaded Egypt the second time and ran into the Roman navy, and then what happened in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah, because this is that historical piece of it that you can research for yourself and find some very interesting things. I mean, the Bible tells us a lot, but it doesn't tell us everything. It doesn't have to about the time period. You can start finding out, and the more you read about this time period, the more you'll see how accurate the Bible was, the Holy Spirit was when he brought these writings to us and told us what was going to happen.
Well, someone asked me once, we did this on a Sunday morning. We spent 46 Sunday mornings. Book of Daniel, jumped into Ezekiel for a little while. And someone asked me, said, what book did you use? Where did you get your study at? And I said, well, I've used the Bible, several Bibles, and I've used some commentaries. I've used some books that were written specifically about this, some things other pastors have done. And I've also used the Encyclopedia Britannica, and I have used Greek history sites, and I have used Wikipedia, and all sorts of references outside of the Bible.
Yep.
Because they tell the truth. I mean, it describes this time.
Yep.
And so we can be very, very confident in what we know because of that.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is why Satan tries to get some to believe that Daniel was written after these events. No, Daniel was written before these events, and that's been shown historically too, if you want to just look at the Qumran tablets. I mean, they date about the best estimate about at least 200 BC. They found the book of Daniel right in the midst of it. So
it's the reason it's so accurate It's because it came from God. That's right.
There you go.
So, anyhow, David, we didn't make it up. We talked about good stuff, but we just didn't make it very far.
Good stuff. Maybe this will prompt some questions, some wonder, and if you do, if you have any, please contact us. You can reach me at david@justifiedradio.org, or you can reach Phil by an email at phil@justifiedradio.org. We'd love to hear from you. We say this on every broadcast, but we really, really would like to interact with you as we talk through the Bible.
Yeah, and you know, we're on the YouTube, the videos, and then the podcast you listen to, whatever your podcast player. But Facebook has become, that is where you'll find everything, and on our webpage. But David, the devotionals that he's doing every day are not devotionals, really the 10-minute lessons that he's giving about having a Christian worldview. Very good, and you find those on Facebook. So look us up on Facebook at Justified Radio, or just go to the website, and there is a tab up there too that they can find it. Yeah. But that's good stuff, and he's doing those. I'm not going to hold you to every day of the week, but he's doing them multiple times a week.
Trying to, anyway.
Yeah. No, they're good stuff, so check them out.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being with us. Hope you'll come back, visit the sites that Phil just told you about. But think about the Bible often and get into gospel conversations. If you don't have a church, find you a good church to go to. There's a lot of good churches around if you're in the Kingsport area, where a lot of our viewers are. Bloomingdale Baptist Church is a great church. Our good friend Tony Crisp is pastoring at the Remnant. Higher Ground, Gravely Baptist. There's a lot of great churches up in the Kingsport area, and love to have you, go to one of them, tell them, maybe we'll start mentioning some churches on every broadcast that you can visit that we do believe preach the Word of God. Jeff Strong out at Sullivan Baptist, great man of God. Matter of fact, I'll get to be preaching there for their homecoming on September the 18th. I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, Phil, always good to see you, buddy.
It's good to see you, David, and we'll keep you informed of those dates, because David's got several dates he's going to be up in the area, and we want you to know when he's going to be up here.
Yep, I'll be around for a while.
So, until the next time, David says,
Shalom.
God bless.
You've been listening to Justified Radio, where life meets the Bible. You can find us on the web at justifiedradio.org, where you can submit questions, subscribe to the podcast, and find links to our social media. That's justifiedradio.org. Until next time, thanks for listening.